Well, you call it the week after. It's more like that feeling when you discover your love for a new delicacy. Well, you just want to have that meal all the time. Sometimes we can liken that to the love for politics, especially for some. They just can't have enough, can't they? They love the smell of the aroma coming from the kitchen. They can tell when a good meal is being cooked. They salivate, they hunger, they devour. But for some, they care for those not close to the food market. And you know what? They ensure you have a good meal and a belly full. It's Political Stew. I'm your chef, Sulaiman Aled. Welcome. It's the week after June 12th, and you just won't believe it. The meal is being eaten is all over the place. And today, we'll let you into the kitchen of this great man. So, on our menu today, we serve you a meal with not too familiar taste. For the first time, we will dish out a meal wrapped in spicy ingredients. We'll unwrap one after the other. So as for this, I'm just trying to see how we can whet your appetite. I ask that you keep your taste buds ready as we serve you MKO Abiola, a man of many parts, and a whole lot that went down before and during and even after June 12th. You can watch us live on the go at tvcnews.tv/live-streaming. We're also live on YouTube, TVC News Nigeria Live, and of course, youtube.com/political stew. You can also watch us live on Facebook. A whole lot is happening with it. So we're having the countdown to the big moment for the Ekiti elections. Two key elections will be the test case for the Independent National Electoral Commission to test, how it will be like for 2019. And just one will be coming up next month, in the month of July. And as itching very close to the big moment, publication of notices of poll will come on the 30th of this month. For those who are participating in this election in the state of Ekiti, they're getting ready for this big moment. And another thing that will happen on that same date, which is 30th of June, is the submission of names of party agents of the election to the Resident Electoral Commissioner, that's the REC in the state. And when we move over to the month of July, there's specifically 12th of July is the last day for campaigns of the election. Don't forget they usually do this 48 hours before the big moment. So if it's the 12th, it then means that the big day, D-Day, is July the 14th. That's the election day. And with it say the studios will be open here, the political kitchen as well as all the studios and the newsroom will be live here on TV to bring you updates on the go for this big moment on the elections. Well, going forward, we should be also looking at a couple of other things. The parties and the people who will be partaking in this election in the state of Ekiti, we're bringing them right here in the kitchen. And for those who can't actually come here, we'll see how we can go out there and get them into that fray and see what else you'll be getting to understand in this election. The news are really coming in from the state. But again, we'll take a moment where we'll come back. We'll be looking at one big day in the life of a nation and, of course, that big individual. And who best to tell us all of this? Stay around. For many babies born in the early 70s in Nigeria, a whole lot happened in the life of these ones. They had a rare chance to experience what it is like to vote. Exercising their franchise was key back in the day. It wasn't hard for many to understand the importance of that process. There was MAMSA, yes. Sounds strange to many. That was the mass mobilization for self-reliance, social justice and economic recovery. They did a good job back in the day. The jingles, the messages were all apt and unforgettable. So the young, the old were all aware. I was a first-time voter then. So off to the top of our heads, we could actually reel out everyone's political jingle then. There weren't many anyway, so it was a two-party system then. I still can see the two lines in my neighborhood, and a state that had a semblance of what Nigeria is. We had lost the big old Bendel state 2 years before then, and diverse tribes and cultures, but we loved ourselves. No one was afraid about the option A4. No one went about killing anyone. We all knew who voted for who then. That was June 12, 1983. We can always read up history, as many still ask questions about that election and what becomes of May 29th. We choose to look at that man whom some don't know about beyond that annulled election. As we say here in the kitchen, nothing ever stays the same. In the course of serving the national meal, Nigeria has witnessed many dressing aprons making us a meal. One kitchen, many cooks, many ingredients, and millions to be served. Stove on, pot on fire, and it's cooking time. Joining us is the elder son to Chief MKO Abiola, Kola Abiola. He joins us now. Good to have you join us. We call this the Upper Little Kitchen, and I hope you'll be having a good time cooking with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here for the football.
Oh, that's true. But anyway, I think I have a bit of football news pretty much later when we wrap up the show on my own snack section. But again, you know, for a lot of people, when they see you, or when you walked in, I'll start by this. Someone came to tell me that you were here, and he said, "Oh my God, there's this semblance with his father." And I said, "Yes. Well, tell us. You know, a lot of people would want to know what it was like being the son of Chief MKO Abiola."
I think it was an absolute privilege, God-sent privilege, to be MKO's son. All of us to even be MKO's kid. We have a unique father, one that we can hold up our heads high up any given day. There's always a story about Dad anywhere you go. Whoever you come across, there's always a story about Dad. And he was a father. He was very busy, but he was always there for us. For me in particular, he was my best friend. It was designed by my late mom. It wasn't by mistake, but we became so close and we became absolute friends. So for me, it was a real loss. It was a real loss to the family as a whole, to the environment in total. I'd experienced the loss of my mother earlier on, which was a big blow to the family as a whole. And effectively, I think 2 years after my mom left, a little after, less than 2 years, effectively my father was equally gone because he was incarcerated for so long and never came back home. So it's, alhamdulillah, basically that's all I can say. I thank God for his short life. He's achieved in his short life what many would never achieve, even if they lived 100 years. And he's still creating a storm till this day. So, alhamdulillah, I thank God for that.
You know, there's so many things I really want to ask, so many questions running through my mind. At first, I'm so excited that you could make it because we were supposed to have this June 12th, but you were busy in Abuja, and this interview just couldn't hold. But again, well, we'll come back to those other really, you know, very pressing questions because I was quite young then. And as I did say, I was a first-time voter. I heard a lot about your father, and I saw a lot. We loved the jingle, and as I did say, it was a two-party system we were having then. So it was easy for any young Nigerian, you know, to memorize the lines. But I still am not done with the family life.
Please.
You know, because a lot of people still would love to learn a thing or two, because if you did say, Mom, your mother was able to help in building that closeness with your father. Perhaps let's talk about that.
Okay.
What exactly did she do?
Well, like in the military, I was my father's batsman. I was the first person he sees in the morning. I'm the one to pick out his suit for the day, make sure his car is cleaned, make sure his room is fixed after he leaves. I was his go-to person for everything, and I mean everything. I mean, it was that kind of relationship we had. I mean, he could lay in his bed and want to change a channel, and he can cross over to pick up the phone to call me to come and check the channel, but he won't cross over to pick up the remote control. It was that kind of relationship. And that's because when I come to do that, at least we get to talk and rub minds, and he will share things with me and so on and so forth. And it was deliberate. My mom made my father my responsibility. Short to, like she would say, he's your God on earth. So it was like that. I mean, I had to take his meals to him. I had to do everything around him. So I knew him so well, and he equally knew me very, very well. It was designed by her, and it's something I benefited from enormously because we could share a lot. I knew a lot. I had an insight in a lot, and that also kind of started from a tender age, even with my grandfather. I was the first grandson on both sides. I was very close to my grandparents, and when they even having, my grandfather was the Balogun, which is the warrior title, and when they're having their meetings, he would tell me to sit down there, and everybody in the room will grumble, but he said, look, Lati, he calls me Lati, Jokwe, sit down there, and along the lines he will ask me, what do I think? And I'll tell him what I think as a young person, and he will tell him what he's saying makes sense, and that kind of also extended to my father in many ways. No matter what he's told or what he's said, he will come home to discuss with Kola first, and dare I say, whatever I say makes as a rule, basically.
I'm happy you're opening up to some of the things bothering me, because definitely I'll be asking you about, you know, June 12, whether Dad actually sought your consent before he went into politics. But again, I'm trying to look at him, trying to do an octopussy here, you know. So many things we really want to touch on, because I still also will have you in the picture, because growing up then, we didn't have a social media, but if you know what they call, you know, rumor, in the rumor mills, a lot of other things that definitely having you here, I want you to speak to.
Yeah, Prime, what's that, these magazines?
All the soft cells, they were all there, and we loved them then. Honestly, we did. We loved them. I'm trying to also talk, okay, you talked about the World Cup. Perhaps we should quickly delve into his life as a sportsman, a lover, you know, of sports. I recall then he was the pillar of sports, not of Nigeria.
In Africa, yes.
In Africa.
Absolutely.